Well, great. I'm glad to have you here. And as I said earlier, this will be our last one for the summer. We'll probably start back that first week in September. And I hopefully will have a good lineup of subjects based on what's happening in the world. Who knows between now and September what we'll be talking about. But there's a lot of subject matter to be able to dive into. So today I wanted to emphasize several things that I wanted you to be able to take with you as you leave through the summer and as you start to work on all the things that you've all talked about, that you are working on or that you're paying attention to or that you're recognizing in your life. And as we move forward, the world is an evolving, changing place daily. And not only just in terms of what's going on in the outer world, there's a lot going on in all of our inner worlds. And in our inner worlds, we have situations from time to time where we're frustrated because we want to create something, or we want something to happen, or we want to release something, or we want to let go of focusing on something that we find ourselves focusing on all the time. You know, we ask ourselves sometimes, why do I see things negatively? Or why do I think of this as negative? And then there are times that we think of positive things. We're thinking of, wow, I'm going to make this happen. This is something I believe in. I'm going to take my business to this level. Or I'm going to release all of this energy that doesn't feel good, and I want to let that go. And so we speak consciously about things, but what happens is our conscious mind and our subconscious mind sometimes don't align. In other words, we make a comment, like I can make a comment, let's just say I'll make a comment, I am a millionaire, okay? Now, if my subconscious mind doesn't believe that, then in other words, my subconscious mind has to align with my conscious mind. And that is what we fight with on a continual basis. And that's what manifesting is all about. Because when we are manifesting, or we are taking the steps or the actions to manifest something, we are working hard to align our conscious mind and our subconscious mind with the energy of the universe. So what happens is sometimes your conscious mind starts to lie to your subconscious mind. And it is often said that the subconscious doesn't know the difference between whether something is real or not real. And that's where the conscious mind works hard to keep us more in what I call outer energy instead of inner energy. And this happens with us personally, it happens with our business, and it happens with our family, or it happens with our trauma. It happens with ourselves in many different ways. And so today I wanted to be able to share a couple of things about what I call our energetic identity. In other words, what is the energy of ourselves? What kind of energy do you hold every day? And I want to talk about the energy of commitment, because you must be committed to yourself in order to shift the beliefs that you have. You have to actually be committed if you want to shift a belief. And what happens is that I'll go back to say we make a statement. And then we have these patterns or these events or situations that happened in our life that have been adding up and adding up and adding up over time. And those are called like our pattern receptors. And so sometimes we come from that, but we're not even realizing that we're coming from that. But what happens around that is, because we have these situations or these patterns, it causes what is called nervous energy or nervous reactions. And then that's where we might go into panic. That's where we might go into negativity. That's where we might go into not believing what we say or what we think we can do. And then that starts to pull down and give us what I call low energetic vibration. And when you're thinking negatively, when you're doubting yourself, when you're not taking action, because you also have to take action. You know, you've heard of analysis paralysis. What happens is things start to happen in our lives, and then we're like, oh no, this is happening. How can I change this? What can I do about this? Oh, I don't think I can do anything. And then you get into where you don't take any action. And then you're in analysis paralysis, and you're just kind of like this. And the reality is that you have to take action. Because the universe, and again, I talk about the universe like it's this big machine that says, oh, you didn't take action, so we're going to do this to you. It's not really like that all the time. But when we think about aligning ourselves energetically, because we are energy, we are energetic beings. So when we align ourselves with the energy of the universe, then we start to raise our vibration. So what are some of the ways that we could raise our vibrations if you get into a place that you feel as though you're not being aligned with a higher energy? Because when you're aligned with higher energy, you will perform differently. You will take new action. You will step into new things. And so what you really want to do is you want to be able to create an energy of you that becomes like your most expansive self. You want to be able to expand even beyond what you think you can expand to. You know, have you ever had a situation where you thought you couldn't do something? There's just no way I can do that. It's impossible. But then you think, well, let me give it a try. And then a little something happens, and then you step into it, a little something else happens, and the next thing you know, you're moving into that situation. You've actually accomplished it. You know, I have to say, I'll use myself as an example. I'm probably best with myself at saying things like, I just can't learn these applications. I can't learn this internet stuff. It's too complicated. And then I just give up. But I made a commitment to myself that, one, I was going to find an application that perhaps I could learn, and I was going to do anything and everything I could to learn it. And if I had to do it over and over and over and repeat it and find somebody to help me, I was going to do it. And so I made that commitment to myself. And so I signed up for this app. I took the first steps. I watched the videos. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, I'm kind of getting this. Now, there's some language I don't understand, but what did I do? I just looked it up on the internet. I'd look it up. What does this mean? You know, when this word is used in an application. And I began to explore, and I began to feel more confident. And I actually realized I was raising my energy and my confidence. And it is surprising sometimes what we can do that we think we can't do. And I like, you know, you said, I'm just kind of working on what I should be working on. And sometimes I realize that I have to focus on that too. What should I be working on? But one of the main actions that I believe is positive for all of us is to learn how to raise our energy vibration. If you have ways to do that on a daily basis, you will completely change your life. And you could change your business if you have a business, because you begin to learn that it's not about all the material things out there around you. It's not about all the logistics that are driving you crazy. It's not about all these tasks that you have to perform. Because if you are able to raise your vibration, you begin to flow through these situations. And also what happens is that, you know, we've talked about, I think I said this the other day, actually I said this yesterday, that we can learn to bend time a little bit, to change time and space. And what I mean by that, think about the times that you were in a situation or doing something and hours went by and you didn't realize it. You're like, wow, those 8 hours were just so fast. And then think of a time you were sitting somewhere and listening to someone going, oh my God, this person's so boring. And it felt like it was 8 hours, but it was only 20 minutes. And so that's bending time, believe it or not. And so what would you want to do? What would all of us want to do? I want to be in a position where things move quickly and I'm accomplishing and it doesn't feel like it. It didn't feel like I actually did those things and I was productive and I was in a mode of taking steps of move, but it was also something that I was excited about, I was enjoying, and therefore I realized that I was in the flow. And I was being present, which is interesting. You're present when those 8 hours are going by, but you're not present of time. Because you're not really thinking about, oh, I get to go home at 6. You know, I'm going home at 6 o'clock, and you're looking at the clock constantly. So this is about learning to raise your energy. And for those of you that are working on life situations, this works for life situations, finding a new career, looking for a new job, figuring out maybe something you want to add to a current business, or even start a current business. And these steps will help us tremendously. So, you know, first there's sort of what I call the three platforms. Let me go back to that. So the first one is your your identity. Who am I energetically? You know, what kind of energy am I? Am I an energy that stays focused, that I've got certain steps I take every day, or am I consistent? And it doesn't mean that you have to have this regimented schedule and every single day you do this, this, and this, but it does mean that there are certain things that you know to do to raise your energy if your energy starts to go to what I call low vibration. So what you want to do is move yourself beyond self-doubt, and that's what you're doing. When you raise your energy, you're moving beyond self-doubt. You're literally beginning to say, I feel good about what I'm doing, I feel good about everything, I'm not worried about what's going on in the world, and because you're worrying about because when you raise your energy, you're literally raising the energy of others around you and in the universe. It is the butterfly effect. So a lot of people want to claim that, oh, if you're not concerned about this situation or that situation or this world situation or compassion of others or this or that, it's nothing to do about that. That's outside society, what I call clutter. What it really is about, I'm raising my vibration so I can raise vibration in the world. And if all of us raised our vibrations, we would have an impact. And I do believe there are impacts being made, because I do believe that there are many people out there that are working hard to keep the energy, their energy, and the energy of the universe moving to a higher level. And that's what the steps are to world peace. And I believe we'll get there. I do believe. I believe all these other things that are happening, the reality is that, yes, they have to happen too, because it creates balance. But the more we focus on us being in the best place we can be, we're now sending energy for others to be in the best place they can be. Doesn't mean we're not compassionate, because we are. But you have to think beyond your physical, exterior situations. You got to think way beyond that. And then, like I said, the next step is to work on your subconscious pattern. To really work on, what is it that is keeping me stuck? Or is that in my mind? Is that my conscious mind telling me I can't move forward because this tragedy happened when I was this old? I call that the block. I call that, it's a big block. It's a big old rock. And you plop it right in front of yourself and you go, oh, I can't move forward because of this. I just can't move forward. Oh, here I am. The reality is, put the block behind you. Let go of the victimism. And the more you think about the negative of that past situation, what are you doing? Lowering your vibration. Think about how I'm moving beyond it. I have moved beyond it. You know, oh, I failed in a business. Oh my God, I failed. How could I possibly be successful in a new business? You forget about the old business. You look at, what did I learn? What did I learn from that old business? What helped me? What can I do differently? Does it mean I shouldn't go into business again? Absolutely not. It means that you're probably better primed to go into business now. I know many, many, many successful individuals that all failed in a business prior to starting the huge business that they ultimately built. And it's because they learned what not to do. And I'll admit, I've learned a lot of things of what not to do in my business so that I can move forward and do those things in my business. And I also have learned how to make some things in my business that were good better. How do I make those better? So it really is about letting go of all this programming and stop telling yourself that, I can't do this because of this. I still have something. Yes, maybe we do. We still feel a lot of times low vibrational energy. We will feel it. I have pieces that I feel of low vibrational energy. But what happens is you want to program yourself and put yourself in a position to go, no, not going to think about that right now. How can I flip that right now to a positive statement? How can I flip that to something positive? And I'm not going to think about the negative statement because that lowers my vibration. So that's something to really go home and think about. Ask yourself, what is my daily dialogue? What am I saying on a daily basis? I sometimes believe that if you stop talking about something that you say is going on with you, if you just ignore it and stop talking about it, don't talk about it, because the talking brings the vibration. Ultimately, it just goes away. Have you ever been in a situation where maybe it was a drama situation? Maybe family. Let's say it was a family. And all you do is talk about this happened and that happened and so-and-so did this and oh my gosh. And everybody keeps talking about it. Everybody keeps talking about it. Do you realize if you just stop talking about it and stop stepping into that drama, it goes away? It literally goes away. You just don't bring it up anymore. Why? It's in the past. The past is over. And this is why I believe so much in being present in your everyday life and then looking at how you can be more present the next day and more present the next day. And start to learn, what does it feel like when I have high energy? What does that feel like? Because I've thought about that. There's been days where I felt like there wasn't anything that anyone could say or do that would stop me from feeling so great. And then there were days that I wasn't feeling that great, and I'm like, how can I recapture that? How can I get back to that feeling of that day? And then I think through what was going on, what was happening. Was it how I got up in the morning? Was it something that happened around me? And when I start thinking about those events, I realize it's when I first got up. It was my attitude, my feeling. It was how I approached the day that made the difference. Because when I approached the day with positive, with thinking of all the great things that I was going to accomplish that day, or grateful for the things that I already had, it began to bring more good, high-level energy into my being. And then it just continued to multiply. And then the last piece is that you have to think about, if you allow these patterns, these past patterns, to plague you on a regular basis, what does it do? It begins to impact the physical body. And the physical body responds. It responds with emotions. It responds with anger. It responds with sadness, crying. How am I going to get through this? Now, granted, we have emotions for a reason, because emotions do allow us to release things. So even when we're working on what I call patterns that have occurred in our life, sometimes it does take an emotion to help release them. And it's when you stuff those emotions and don't allow yourself to express yourself or to let go. Letting go is important. Letting go can be very powerful. But when you let go, you have to let go for good. And you can't tell yourself, oh, I let go, but then all of a sudden, oh no, maybe I didn't let go. I'm thinking about it again and I'm bringing it up again. But when you let go, you truly have to let go. And you have to step into something new. So that's when a transformation begins to happen for all of us. Now, here's a couple of things that happen And I'm using a process of a person that I respect. It's a woman who teaches what she calls, well, she actually teaches energetic business, but she also applies all of this to your personal life, because it really applies to your personal life first, before it could even apply to your business. But what happens is, we're going through multiple things right now. And one of the things we're going through is what we call the Phoenix process. And what happens is that what's collapsing collectively, and what happens is that collectively in the world, there's a lot of collapse of things. But that's because new things are rising. And you can't have new energy, new process, new progress unless you have some collapse of the old ways. And that's what's happening to us as individual beings. We may find that there's a lot of collapse. And I'll use Robin. Robin had a whole, like a condo collapse, kind of, where she had a major flood. And that was kind of a collapsing of things around her. However, prior to all of this, she had been talking about manifesting like a whole new decorative environment in her condo. And as it turns out now, she's getting a lot of remodels, she's getting a lot of replacement. So sometimes collapse comes in an odd way. Sometimes collapse can come in a breakup. You know, there's a breakup, that whole relationship, the situation collapses, but that opens the door for a new opportunity. And sometimes businesses collapse, and that opens the door for a new, about the phoenix, the rising out of the ashes, and that's truly what happens to us in many ways. So then you also have what you would look at is how you look at what we call the waves of transformation, and the waves of what are your steps. What are the things that you want to focus on first? Like if there's something right now in your life that you would like to move forward, or you'd like to eliminate something, is ask yourself, what's the first thing I could do? How could I raise my energy to a higher vibrational level in addressing this situation? How can I do that? Is it taking action? Is it sitting down and writing out a plan? Is it making a list of the things I want to accomplish, or the things that I want to let go of? I mean, you have to take some kind of action. There has to be some form of what I call physical, whether it's thought or writing or just knowing, I'm doing this tomorrow morning. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be one step. Then you also have what we call, there's sort of, I guess, 6 pillars of what we call energetic transformation. And the first pillar is really, it's personal power. It's your personal power. And it's really learning to make commitments to yourself and to step into your own inner power and let your inner power come forth. The second one is learning how to grow beyond logic that's in you, because we all think logically a lot of times. We're like, well, if I do this and this and this, or I did this and that happened. Again, it's about learning how to bend time, how to ask yourself, what is it that I really want to do? What is it that lights me up? What brings me joy? What are the things that I could do for hours and not even realize that time is flying by? We need to do more of that. We need to find more of those situations. It might be, Bonnie, it might be you're making bracelets. Mm-hmm. You don't even think about it because it's a passion. Mm-hmm. So part of this is really understanding, what is my passion? What do I love to do? And then the next one is, and this is manifestation. It's the science of money and prosperity. And we all manifest. I realize, this is kind of funny, but I realize I am a great manifester. But I am a manifester of clutter. When I say clutter, I mean, I asked myself one day, how many staplers do I really need? How many Post-it notes do I really need? I had this thing of collecting office supplies. I mean, not just here, at my other office and at my house. I was cleaning out some things the other day, and I had 4 staplers. And I was like, why do I have that many? And I started to look around, and I do. I have all these little business supplies, Post-it notes, notebooks, and all these little gadgets. And I'm like, wow, if I can manifest all of this, why am I not manifesting the big things that I'm really seeking? So I had to really take a look at my energy around manifesting. I'm like, well, I am manifesting. And you manifest every day. You know, you may be saying, oh, I've got this, you know, my life is so negative and I've had this problem and that problem. You're actually manifesting that whether you realize it or not. And you have to flip it. You absolutely have to flip it. Now, I will say from a spiritual perspective, and I won't get in deeply into this, but in a spiritual situation, it does have a lot to do with our astrology. It has a lot to do with our numerology. It has a lot to do with maybe agreements that we made when we came into this world. But it does not mean that you can't shift it. And that's the one thing I always want people to understand. I may be a certain astrological sign, but I can mellow my sign. I have choices. I can choose different activity. I can choose different behavior. I can choose things, and that puts me on my path to truly embody who I am, to put me in a positive position. So a lot of people just accept, oh, I'm this astrological sign, or I'm this personality. I was assessed with this personality, and I just can't move beyond it. I know many children that were assessed with autism and parents were told they'll never be able to function in society. And parents said, no, I don't think so. I'm going to change that. And they changed it. They treated their children differently. They learned all the things that they needed to do, and that child grew up to be an adult that was totally self-sufficient. So, you know, I tell everyone, don't believe what people tell you if you feel in your heart that you know that you can do something different. And that's how we have to look at, how can I shift my manifestation of negative situations into creating a positive? And again, ask yourself, can I just get rid of the word negative and problem and then just call them opportunities? And so instead of seeing a problem in a business or a problem in your life, see it as an opportunity. How can I learn from this? Or what did I learn from this, and how can I use it? How can I use this again? The other thing is also learning to see your body as a portal for energy and raising that energy. Learning how to build good, high-level, solid energy in your body. And there's many ways to do that. Meditation is a great way. Just sitting in stillness is a good way. Sitting around trees. Believe it or not, if you sit in the woods, or even in your backyard, if you have a lot of trees, go sit somewhere in the center of those trees, wherever you can. And literally, trees will raise your vibration. You know, trees are alive. Trees have an intelligence system, and they are energetic. And, you know, people talk about, oh, there's tree huggers. Believe me, hugging a tree makes you feel pretty good. And so that's a very simple step. Or just taking a walk in nature can also help. And nature, I use nature a lot as a way to ground yourself and to raise your vibration, because we should and could live better in harmony with nature, but we always don't. You know, it's like when a person lives in a city and they're around all concrete all the time, they actually have lower vibration. And why do you think New York City has Central Park? I mean, why do they have that green space? Because people have to have green space. They have to have it. It's just something we need. We came from the earth, thriving, living multiplying, growing from the earth. You know, our villages grew, tribes grew, people grew, we lived off the land. So nature is our go-to source. In fact, I say that's the number one go-to source. If you're having trouble in your business, nature is your go-to source first, because it will give you answers. Take a walk, sit in trees, sit in stillness, listen to the wind, listen to the birds. There are all different ways to kind of give you that peace and clear your mind. So, as we move through the world today, and it's a different day every day, as we move through this world, we really should be somewhat selfish and focus on ourselves first, because if you don't have your health, if you don't have your energy, if you don't have the ability to keep seeking for something better for you, you can't seek it for others. You can't do it. You can't do for others if you don't take care of yourself first. And you have to have a certain amount of selfishness. And that's the good part of selfishness, because selfishness can be a negative word, but it can be positive as well. And when you think of it, selfishness, you're focusing on self, but you're focusing on it in a good way. You're focusing on it so that you can be better at what you do. You're focusing on it so that you can send energy out into the world and make a difference. So as we close this session for the summer, and as we look at reopening in September for Soul Sunday, my challenge, I guess, to each of you is, what can you do in this summer to raise your vibration, to build your life, build a business, enhance your business, grow your business, or grow your life, or make a difference in your family or anything around you? What are the things that you could do, that you could personally commit to yourself, and go out there this summer and make a difference? Because you all have the ability, because you were given choices, and you have that choice. And there are sometimes people that come in to the shop and they say, I just don't know what to do with my life. And I know that is the place that they're in. But they're coming from a place of where they feel defeated. And I say to a lot of people, the first thing that you must do is raise your vibration. Because you're stuck in negativity right now. You've got to raise your vibration. But then I remember a certain situation with a young girl who was just obsessed with someone in a relationship. And she was just like, and apparently he had separated or broke off from her. She's like, but I just can't do it. I have to have him. I have to be with him. And I just, and she'd come in 2 or 3 times, and, I haven't been able to talk to him for months, and he won't call me, he won't talk. And I'm like, you know what? We gotta cut this, we gotta break this energy. But you have a choice, and you're not taking your choices. Your choice is to stay stuck with this person. You're not choosing. You say you want to be in a great relationship. Why would you want to be with someone that doesn't want to be with you? That's your first clue right there. And then you have a choice. Choose to do better. Choose to be better. And people don't want to choose. But I don't want to choose. I want this. No, you can't have that. The option is you can't have that. So what do you do now? Stay stuck? And that's what a lot of people do. They stay stuck. So the goal is, raise your energetic vibrations that are in your body. It's in your conscious, your subconscious. Bring it to a level that brings you joy, brings you success, brings you happiness, and brings you anything that you desire. And then you also go, how did I do that so quickly? And you did it quickly because you raised your vibration and you aligned with the universe. That is the difference between people who have very successful businesses and people who are always struggling, because their vibration is low and they're pulling in the negative opportunities. The people that keep their vibrations high, stay focused, stay positive, don't let anything stop them from moving forward, their business rises. Plain and simple. Same thing in your life. If you're constantly having family problems, think about it. Vibration's probably low. Raise your vibration. Or just move away from the family, because they may not change, but you can change. And learn where their energy impacts you and block it. Remove yourself from the situation. And that's hard because, we have statements in the world, family's everything. You should always love your family. You should always, well, if your family is toxic and crazy, it's hard to do. And it's hard to be around because they're not going to change, but you can change. And this is where I said, go out into the world this summer. Make choices, make the changes that you want to make, and thrive. Because that's how you will thrive this summer. So thank you.